What's up, everybody? I'm Kyle Carlson, and this is the Rollback BMX Podcast, the #1 BMX podcast in the entire universe, according to me. Today's guest is one of the greatest street riders in the history of BMX riding, Mr. Van Homan. Van Homan is a BMX lifer if there has ever been one. In addition to being a pioneer in the art of filming video parts, Van is also a professional judge, he puts on his own events, he travels the world, and is an all-around cool guy. We talk about Uncovered BMX, the new amateur series that he and Brian Kaczynski are putting on, his many incredible video parts, and if he plans on doing any more, how he got into judging BMX events and how seriously he takes it, his thoughts on the Olympics, and much more. And here is my conversation with Van Homan. So you and Kaczynski just wrapped up the Uncovered series.
Wait, you're not even going to introduce me?
No, I'm going to film my own intro. I'll record an intro of me saying who you are.
Okay.
That's the way you do this.
I want you to be like, we're here with Van Homan. Yeah.
We're here with a man you may have heard of on the internet. Okay. He vlogs a lot. So you and Kaczynski just wrapped up the first year of the Uncovered series, which was an amateur street contest. What exactly made you guys want to dive in and do that?
Well, I'd been thinking about doing some sort of an event for quite a few years, actually. And I'd gone out to Portland at one point and kind of talked to Paul and Luke, who had done some of the bigger events. They'd done the stuff with
Dreamline.
Yeah, Dreamline, and they did that piece with at the stadium. Why can't I think of his name?
Fernagle.
Yeah, Tyler Fernagle, and so they'd done some really cool stuff, and we kind of got chatting about like doing an event, and I went out and chatted with them, and long story short, it kind of like snowballed into a bigger monster than what my original intentions are. My intentions were to create something just more inclusive. Like at the time, I felt like there wasn't any events that were like open entry type events where anybody could come, anybody could participate. So fast forward a few years later, I'd been kind of just thinking about different ideas for a couple years, but I hadn't taken any action, and I was like, it's one of those things, I'm going to do this. But like, then you've never really done anything, and it just felt like I was a whole lot of talk. And I mentioned something to Kaczynski. I was like, hey, I've been thinking about this idea for a while, and an AM focused event and blah, blah, blah. And, I just kind of presented the basic concept to him. And then he was really excited about it. And we just started bouncing ideas back and forth and created the model essentially for Uncovered and said, this is what we want it to be. This is how we want to do it. And, Brian came up with the name. We started bouncing logos back and forth, ideas back and forth, and talking about which parks we wanted to work it at, regions, just the whole thing, just started. We got excited. Our energy just fed off each other. We got really excited about this idea. And then next thing you know, it was happening. And
so when did you actually sit down and start formally putting things together? How long did this take before it actually started? I'm not talking about just the ideas brewing in the brain. I mean, like, all right, let's target this for our first date. This is what we have to do. Let's get sponsors.
Right. I guess it was maybe sometime. I can't even remember when I first mentioned it to him, but it was sometime probably late summer last year, 2017. So then I think around like September, we really started to like crack down on it. Like he would drive up from where he's living down near DC, and I would drive Philly. We kind of meet at like Panera Bread in the middle and just sit down and brainstorm, and then just kind of get everything organized. And then we started hitting up skate parks and saying like, hey, are you guys interested in this? And getting stickers made and just making it happen.
One thing, granted, I didn't get to attend any of the events, and after looking at the coverage, I really wish I could have, and hopefully can next year. One thing I believe it was you or Kaczynski said to me was it kind of restored a sense of the road trip vibe that we all kind of grew up upon. There were guys going to each stop and they weren't exactly close, and guys sleeping in their car, and just kind of that real BMX life that you don't see that often these days.
No, that totally makes sense. I mean, that's the spirit that we wanted to encourage, and it was one of those things where sometimes everybody gets caught up in industry drama or like big events or this, that, and the other thing. And when you saw what was happening with Uncovered, it really rekindled that BMX spirit, and you realize that these guys just want to ride. They want to be part of something. And I think now, like just with not to constantly like use social media as a scapegoat, but I think it's kind of easy to interact and get attention like through forms of social media and what have you. So I think re-encouraging, I don't even think there was something missing, and I don't even think people knew it was missing. You know, like when we were younger, everybody wanted to go to the jams. Everybody wanted to get together and have a good time. And the coolest part was how thankful everyone that came to our events was. They would just, oh, thank you so much for doing this. This was so much fun. Like, you know, thanks for giving. And I was kind of shocked because I feel like usually people are, I don't know. I just feel like people aren't always that appreciative. So it felt really good. It felt really good to see kids having fun and going out of their way to come there because they enjoyed it. And you know, that it just made it all feel worth it. I mean, it just made it feel like we were doing something special. So.
Tell the story about the rider whose name I can't remember, who pretty much went there broke and like slept at a skate park. And
yeah, Adam G. That's a pretty good story because he showed up at the first event and he won amateur actually. And then he made his way out to Pittsburgh at the wheel mill for the second stop. And I don't think he had any money. He actually hid in the skate park at night and slept under the ramp. You didn't hear that, Tosny? And then, yeah, so he just slept under the ramp. And then he managed to make his way out to Milwaukee as well. And then in Milwaukee, it was amazing because by that point, he had bumped up to semi-pro. And he got second. He got second in semi-pro. So he went from like winning amateur, sleeping under ramps so he could make it to all the stops, and then he was second place in semi-pro by the end of the series.
It's cool to see progression in such a short term.
For sure. Yeah.
So looking at everything you have on your plate these days, it seems like you're a huge advocate for damn near everything in BMX. I think would be in a lot better place if we had a lot more people like you. In addition to the Uncovered event, you have a girls' jam you're hosting. You're judging events, you're traveling, you're going to every single jam. What kind of keeps you going this late in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm hosting the women's jam necessarily, but I think I've always kind of been an advocate for women's freestyle, especially as of recently, and it's growing really fast, and I think it's like a really, really positive thing that's happening, and so I think it's good to give the women more opportunities, and but yeah, so I don't want to like take credit for like host. I feel like but the Source guys are putting on a jam and they kind of asked me if I wanted to help out with it some. So I kind of tried to help organize some of it and just doing some judging. But it's it's mostly the guys over at Source pulling that all together.
Well, to be fair, I could have just said organized. I guess I said hosted.
Yeah.
But everything else was.
But sorry, either way, I feel like I got off the topic because I didn't want to take credit for something
between hosting amateur events, between judging events, organizing jams, attending jams. I know it seems like every weekend you're at a different jam. Where is the fuel for your fire this late in the game?
I think what it is, I mean, I actually had I talk with Steve Crandall a lot, and he's I feel like we're kind of sounding boards for each other sometimes, and he kind of keeps me in check sometimes, like when I'm frustrated about something, or he kind of helps see both sides of a story, and he's not just gonna kind of be this echo chamber, as he would usually put it, like where all your boys are always like, yeah man, yeah, you're right, like he's gonna help you see the other side of it and just keep your perspective, so with that being said, I think another good point that he made is like, we're not visitors. We're in this. Like this is our life. BMX is our life. It's what we know. It's what we love. And I'm always trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together so I can just kind of keep this dream alive. And if I can be part rider, part judge, part whatever, and I can still go to all these events and be part. I mean, I love being at events. Whatever I'm doing at an event, I love it, and I feel like I have different roles at different events, and those roles make sense depending on what I'm doing. At Uncovered, I'm organizing. I'm running around. At a feast, I'm being a judge. At then I'll go down to the FL series in Florida, and I'll ride. So it's like it's whatever makes sense for the event that I'm at. I want to participate in all kinds of different ways. So
yeah. I definitely see, a lot of guys with your age and with your resume within the BMX world not as active these days as you are. So I don't know what Is anything specific about it keep you excited, or is it just that undying love?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't really think about it. I guess it's what I know. It's what I love. And I just love being a part of it. And I also, I definitely consciously put myself out there sometimes because that also helps create opportunities. You make yourself visible and you participate however that may be. And, that keeps your finger on the pulse. You know what's going on and that can create opportunities, and it also creates a lot of fun. So I don't know. Yeah,
I recall when a few years back when you started being incredibly active in judging, I just kind of assumed, not to name any names, but I feel like there are a handful of BMX judges out there that are essentially in that seat because of something they did in the past, not based on a current relationship with the sport or knowledge of the sport. And I kind of assumed like, okay, that's probably what Van's doing. I sat down and talked to you one night. I don't know if you recall. It was a bar in San Diego. We talked for a couple hours about it. And I remember being like, holy shit, like Van is really serious about judging. When did you actually start judging BMX events, and what drives you to be so good at it?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good judges out there, and I think there's, people are starting to take it a little more seriously. But yeah, I mean, I guess I started around 2011, starting to do, I'd maybe done a few events when I was hurt or something like that. But I think that's when I really started to get, kind of serious about it. And a lot of opportunities started to come up. And as that progressed, and especially the past couple years when it became, a very active thing for me where I was almost doing at least an event a month. It's like anything, you want to do the best job you can at it. And especially when you're at events where guys really take the results seriously. They're putting themselves out there. They're working hard towards their goals, and you want to get it right, and you want to feel confident about the scores you're putting in. So, I just don't look at it like a side project. I go home, like I'll rewatch like runs, make sure I agree with what the scores that I put down during the event, and without going too into detail, I just try to analyze things, and I try to get better at it, just like anything. Like through practice, you get better, just like anything.
What was the first year that you judged the X Games?
I think it was it 2011? Because 8, 9, 10. No, maybe 2012. Because 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so 2012 would be the first year I judged because I rode in street in 2008, 9, 10, and 11.
And then went straight into judging the following year.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so no, yeah.
Was that kind of the first big judging gig you really stepped into, aside from just kind of a local jam? Or
I'm trying to remember. There could have been something random, but that's when it really started to like snowball into a lot of opportunities with that, with Tutor, the Mongoose Jams, the Feast. It just snowballed.
Am I correct in understanding that this will be your first year in quite some time not judging X Games?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I won't be judging X Games this year, I guess. Yeah.
Any comment on that, or just?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just went in a different direction this year. Switch up the judges sometimes, and I've been focused kind of on some of these Feast and UCI events. So, I don't know. Unfortunately, I would love to be there again, but they've gone a different direction. So,
are you judging all of the Feast UCI events?
I think I'm doing all but Budapest this year.
Okay.
I'd love to be at Battle Hastings, which is the same weekend as Budapest.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
So, yeah, that is unfortunate, but it's cool. Like, they try to switch up the judges sometimes anyway, so I didn't even have to ask. Luckily, like, I think Johan just saw that Battle Hastings was the same weekend, and there was a couple dudes that he knew would want to be there, and so he used some of his other guys. So I'm really stoked about that. So
you've been fairly involved with judging UCI events like the Feast events we've talked about. And I believe you've actually been out to the UCI headquarters. Am I correct?
Yeah, I've just been out there for a couple of judges' meetings.
What's your take from your perspective on everything currently going on with the road to the Olympics, these style competitions, everything getting pretty serious over here? What's your take on it?
I think it's exciting. I think it's creating opportunities for riders, for industry people. I just think it's creating a lot of opportunity, and I think BMX is in a rad place where you can be part of whatever you want to be part of, or you can create whatever you want to create. you create your version of freestyle that you want to see. And, like someone like me and Brian, we wanted to create Uncovered. That was the vibe we wanted. We wanted to be able to like hand our judges a 6-pack and say, hey, how do we judge? Like, just pick the best dudes. And we want a loose, fun vibe. And I think that's fitting in that regard. And then you have something like this on the complete other end of the spectrum that's equally amazing, in my opinion, especially when it includes everyone. Anyone can enter this contest. I mean, on a judge's standpoint, when you're sitting in a judging tower for 12 hours a day, it's a little frustrating. But I love the fact that any amateur, pro, you can enter this event and be part of it. You see amateurs and their friends are just standing on the sidelines going crazy for the simplest tricks. And that's, to me, what it's all about. It's like that energy and that excitement. And it's about being inclusive. It's about things being inclusive. And I think whether you're talking about Uncover, you're talking about Feast, anybody can enter these events. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, what was my point? I got so. What was the question again?
I don't recall, but I like everything you were saying.
Okay.
I think just kind of about the Olympics. I know there's kind of some.
Oh yeah.
Some guys have split opinions in the industry. I mean, what do you think? It's a positive thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an opportunity. Like if you want to chase that opportunity is there for you. And if it's not what you're into, you go to other events or you go to your local trails or your local park. And I think people get really wrapped up in it. As if it's like changing BMX or there's some kind of like ownership over BMX, and like there's not going to be like a tabletop tax at your local trails. It's like you can
pay Christoph for $10 every time you do one.
Yeah. Like you can ride how you want. You can be part of the events you want. I mean, I think it's a really awesome time for BMX as a whole. Like there's so much cool shit going on. And, I think sometimes people tend to like reflect on history or the past and be like, oh, it was better when this or when that. And I mean, if you look at it, like there's stuff happening everywhere for everyone. I mean, you have like, again, not to toot our own horn, but like you have like what we're doing with Uncovered. You have like the Vans Bowl events. You have Feast going on. You have, you have Chase Hawk putting on jams. You have Steve Crandall down in Richmond putting on DIY jams. There's street contests happening everywhere now. There's the Source guys doing Battle of Hastings. Like whether you're a fan or whether you're a rider, there's something for you to participate in and be stoked on. And it's just you finding like what's my thing? Like where do I fit in? What am I the most excited about? And go do that, because like that opportunity is there for you. And I feel like if you think it's not, you're not paying attention. And if it truly isn't, well, then make it happen. Like create the version of freestyle you want to see. I mean, in my mind, it's like freestyle. You can't tell someone what their version of freestyle should be. And if somebody wants to, ride cellar doors in New York City, that's awesome. And if somebody wants to treat themselves like an athlete and strive to be in the Olympics, that's awesome too. It's like you can create your version of freestyle.
Having spent time at both Feast UCI events as well as Vans Bowl contests, the two are so different, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing that those opportunities are out there for both style of rider. I don't think there's anything to say but that. I think it's just another example of the opportunities that are out there, and they're different entities, and they're both rad.
When you were riding and competing, I don't take you as a guy that was ever as serious as some of the guys are these days. Were you ever on a strict diet or working out or anything? Or you always just...
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and that's sort of my point as well, is like this, when I watch a Feast event, this was never who I was as a rider or how I approach my career. I mean, granted, I am the 2000 Feast champion, but but yeah, no, I never approached my riding like that way or with some sort of like seriousness. I think that if you look back and you kind of like, you look at like someone like Dave Mirra, who like we all like respect, even if you didn't approach things that way, like you respected what he was doing. And I think what you're seeing now is that you just have a lot more of that type of person. Like they want to treat their body the best they can, and they want to, like, they kind of train. It's not something, I never trained to ride BMX, which that just wasn't me.
Yeah.
But that's who these guys are. And again, I think you can follow or be part of the version that you're into. And for me to say this is lame, this isn't freestyle, or this isn't what freestyle is about, like, well, maybe it's not what it's about to you, but it's what it's about to them. And who am I to say that, like, you're wrong for that?
Yeah.
So
I agree completely. I think one issue when these guys are turning more and more into athletes is there are a lot of times when it seems like in weird cities in the world, you and I are the only two Americans at the bar. But, I guess there's worse problems than that we could be dealing with. You've kind of seen BMX on all ends, from pro rider, shop owner, judge, contest organizer. Which one of those do you enjoy the most? Can you put your finger on it? Like, were you having more fun when you were just riding and filming, or?
Actually, no. Like, I think now I really love the place that I'm in the industry and as a rider right now, because I'm still riding. I still ride hard. I still get that, like, spark in me sometimes where I'm like, oh man, look at that setup. I got to go for this. And especially last year, I got to do a lot of stuff I was stoked on and felt like I still was pushing myself as a rider. But I feel like, in a way, I'm more like, I just feel like I can do things totally on my terms. I don't feel any pressure at this point to ride or at any certain level or do things that I'm not in the mood to do. Like, if I go on a road trip and I want to ride all day and do a bunch of scary things, well, cool. But if I go and I'm just not feeling it at all, like, I won't do it. And so I kind of like that I'm in a place where I don't feel pressure like that. So I like having, at the moment, I have, like, many different roles, and I'm really enjoying that.
You've kind of handpicked them, it seems like.
Have I? How do you mean? How have I handpicked
I just mean
them?
in the sense of the way you're explaining things, you're not doing anything you don't want to do right now.
Right. I mean, yeah. That's a good place to be.
I totally agree. Uh-huh. You've always kind of been known as a video part guy. Is there any more of those left in the tank? I'll be honest, man. I was a bit nervous with the real street part. You went really hard for that. I was like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any agenda at the moment. I'm not working on anything in particular. I won't say, like, I don't really see myself, like, after that real street part, I definitely kind of went in on that, and I wanted that to be the best I could make it. But
did you get a medal for that?
No.
That was a really good section.
Oh, thank you. But again, if something strikes me, I want to go for it. But I don't want to, like, feel like forced to put myself on the line in that way, like, at any point again. I mean, I really did I was in a weird mental place at that time during the filming of that, and just going through some personal stuff, and it was like, but I really was like, man, this is a great opportunity, and if this part comes out and I'm not, like, I don't feel like I gave it 110, I'm going to be really bummed on myself. And so I mean, I did, and I'm really proud of the part I put out. But I don't know. I'm just going to do my thing. Like I said, I don't, that's not to say I won't. I mean, I thought there's times 15 years ago that I thought I was done filming video parts on that level. So never say never, but, I'm kind of, right now, it's like more fun. Like last year when I came over to France, like my friend Antoine, like, took me to a bunch of really rad spots, and we did a piece from that, and I was really stoked how that came.
Was that the dig piece?
Yeah,
dig or fit, or both?
Yeah, it was dig fit piece.
Is that the one where you went and you did you one up yourself from like 20 years ago or something?
Oh, I did actually. Yeah, there was so we did a little double trip to this one park in France, and I did it over ice, whatever, 15 years ago, and then I did bar over ice on that trip. So I was stoked on that. But that's just an example of like organically, like, pushing yourself. I was in the mood to do that day. It felt right, so you do it. But I didn't. That trip was, we were just riding like a lot of cool natural transition spots and things like that. So it was like, there's no pressure. It was just fun. And I think it's important to show that version of BMX now too. There's so much content out there, but there is a lack of, like, lifestyle happening right now. It's either one or the other. It's either some, like, super serious edits, or it's like a vlog. There's not like
cruising with the boys, filming some clips, but it's not about us having a conversation.
Yeah.
Looking back at your career, you've had a lot of awards and accolades. Many people acknowledge you as the man with the best video part of all time. What stands out to you in your career as something you're the most proud of? I
mean, obviously my video parts. of course I'm proud of Criminal Mischief, but I would say I'm almost more proud of Holy Fit.
Yeah.
Because when you're younger, it's just kind of happening. And I mean, granted, you're pushing yourself, you're earning it, but you kind of don't even really recognize what you're doing or what's happening. It sort of just all happens. And then with Holy Fit, I really wanted to work on a project where the filmer and the editor was just as invested in it as I was. And I could also take the time that I needed to create the part that I wanted to create. So when we kind of got the ball rolling on that, I talked to Chris about, hey, let's make a fit video. And, Stu started doing some projects for us. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, let's get Stu on board to do this. And, we started going in on it. And I had the time, to just be happy with every clip and the final product and feel like I didn't leave. Of course, there's always more stuff you want to do, but within reason, I didn't feel like I left loose ends. I was really happy with it. I was proud of it. With every other project I'd done in between Criminal Mischief leading up to Holy Fit, I felt like there was a deadline, or it was tough getting a filmer, or the music rights, or like there was always some kind of compromise with the part that made me not entirely happy with it. And I feel like that didn't happen with Holy Fit. So then for that part to come out the way I wanted it, and then at like 34 to get a Nora Cup after it had been like 12 years since the last one, was kind of a really, really good feeling.
What was the last clip in that? Was it the grind to hop over in Arizona on the roof?
No, that was kind of mid part. It was like
that one stands out to me as just a clip that I really like.
Thank you.
Really gnarly.
It was like grind, gap, up rail to gap to over grind. And
then that's right.
A little wedge
Yeah. That was a good section.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Criminal Mischief was good too.
Thank you. But then I guess while I'm like here, like talking about myself, since this is what you asked me.
That's exactly what it is.
I think X Games medals too. Like in 2008 and 2009, at that point, like I had ridden in X Games in dirt, I'd ridden X Games in park, and then I'd been out of it for a few years, and I didn't even think I'd ever have a chance to ride in X Games again, let alone being on the podium. So when they brought street into the X Games, it was like, whoa, this is kind of my opportunity. And that was kind of the first time I'd ever really taken a contest that seriously. I was like, whoa, like this is real right now. Like I have a chance to get an X Games medal. And like, I don't know if some people might think so, but I wanted it. Like I was like, I have a chance to do this, and I want to get it, because this is kind of a dream come true to have this opportunity and feel like I'm legitimately good enough to be there. Like I think before that, park or dirt, it was like even my dream run. Like I feel like one year, like maybe like 2004, I like did my dream run at X Games in park. That was good enough for 5th place. 5th
in X Games Park is huge.
Which I'm very proud of.
Who won that year?
I don't remember. Maybe Dave, but I really don't remember.
Yeah.
But like I said, that was my dream run in street. I could win. My dream run in park, I could get 5th place. So I never took it that serious. I just kind of, this is cool. I'll get to go to the X Games. I like being like, it was almost like just getting to go there was me winning. Like, I made it.
Yeah.
I made the X Games. I did it. Woo. And then it became a point where like, I could actually get a medal. And then I was just kind of glad like that everything worked that day. And, silver medal, like, so.
Which is huge.
That's
awesome.
That's why I'm talking about it.
This is kind of a random question, but I have to ask because I wasn't there. When X Games first added street, was there anyone against it? Like, oh no, these are two opposite schools of thought. You know what I mean? In the sense of, BMX in the Olympics, that's weird. I feel like it's kind of the first time that street riding was thrown into something as corporate as the X Games, which I think is great. But was there any blowback?
I don't know if there was any blowback with street. You could obviously go back to just when the X Games in general started.
Yeah.
And you kind of would hear people being like, oh, what the fuck? Like, ESPN's taking over BMX. Like, I remember like there was like ESPN cameras on the dirt jumps at like a dirt circuit years ago, and like people threw dirt bombs at them and like threw ESPN out of the infield at like a race. And then it's kind of like, football players are trying trying to control our sport and like things like that with the ESPN taking over. And now, you know, I think you're hearing similar things with UCI and X Games now, and I mean with UCI and FISA and what have you now. Like, road bikers are taking over our sport, and I don't think that's the case with either one of them. I think ESPN and X Games is creating opportunities for riders. They're putting BMX out there, and I think the UCI and FISA is doing the same thing now. So I think it's all super positive. Like the more opportunities that are available, that are out there for riders, it's awesome. And I mean, I don't care. Like, in my opinion, sometimes people are kind of like, oh, well, this is going to like trickle down and this is going to get more people and this is going to help the industry grow. And I don't know, maybe that'd be cool. But at the end of the day, like whether that does happen or doesn't happen, it's not hurting it.
Yeah.
You know, and so none of this stuff is hurting it. It's like, even if one person gets a cool opportunity because all this exists, well, that's one person that didn't have a cool opportunity before, so I support it.
How many years have you been riding for Fit?
Jeez. How many years have I been riding for Fit? I think me and Moeller have talked about it. We argue about this, but I think since 2002. I'm pretty sure since 2002. Yeah, I'm going to say 2002. I'm pretty sure there was an ad. My first ad was like the turn of the year in 2002. And what are we at? 2018 now?
Yep.
So what's the math on that?
You and I aren't the guys for that job.
Yeah, so 17, 18 years I've been on Fit. So only 1 year after they started, I got on like, you know, Mikey and BF and Hanson, Robbie, like that was the original team.
Was Inman on originally, or was he around the same time as you?
No, Inman might have been one of the OGs, yeah. So yeah, I've been on a year since after it started. Like I remember, so I was riding for Schwinn, and like things started getting weird, and I didn't necessarily know why, but I wasn't stoked on what was happening. And I ended up talking to Robbie about Fit, and you know he was into bringing me on board, and so I actually called Schwinn and was like, hey, you know, like, is there any way I can like get out of my contract? Like I'm not really into this right now. And like, you know, it's kind of been weird. Communication's been weird. I don't know what's going on over there. And they're like, they kind of just ignored me for a little while. And I was real confused. And then finally I got a call back, and they were like, hey, we got some news. You're actually the first person we're calling about this because you're going to be the only one that's not completely bummed. We're actually filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and you're free to ride for Fit. And I was like, awesome.
And that explains the weirdness prior.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think things were going in a bad direction with Schwinn, so they were just kind of ignoring any phone calls or emails. And
when you rode for them, who owned them? Because it was before Pacific Bottom, and you could buy them at department stores, right?
Yeah, no. After this, I mean, I don't know who owned them then. It might have just been, I don't know.
Mr. Schwinn?
Yeah. But like that's when once they filed bankruptcy, that's when it got sold to Pacific, and it became like department store, like junk bikes. Before that, it was still like, you know, it was still the respected Schwinn that
our parents grew up on.
Exactly, yeah.
When you had your signature Mean Street frame, was that actually like proper quality, was that American made?
Yeah. So
who made that?
You know, that was made by Spooky Dave. Actually, he does his brand now. What's his? Is
it Pedal Driven Cycles?
Yeah, Pedal Driven Cycles. So he worked for FBM at the time and stuff like that. And you know, he was just a well respected welder, American made. So that was one of the things. I think that's kind of a good point that you bring up too. I think regardless of what it is you do, you bring your credibility with you. And you know, when I first started riding for Schwinn, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about this, man. I don't know if I'm into it. This brand is kind of like, this is a big corporate brand. It's kind of whack, whatever. Like I wasn't really excited about it at first. And my parents were like, are you crazy? Like this is such a great opportunity. They're going to send you to these events. You're going to get to do all these things. And, you know, so I did it a bit reluctantly at first. And then when I look back, that would have been one of the biggest mistakes I would have ever made to not ride for Schwinn.
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, you bring your credibility with you. And when it came to like, okay, like I elevated, you know, when I first got on, it was just like, okay, free travel. And then pretty quickly, like my reputation escalated. So it got to the point I had a signature bike, and there was just compromises I wasn't willing to make. I'm like, hey, I want this bike American made. And we like worked on the design together and things like that. And there was even like stuff with the back triangle. They're basically telling me how to make my bike because it's a Schwinn trademark. And I was like, I at one point I said that to him. I was like, hey, I don't want that. if that's what you're going to make me do, I don't want a signature frame.
Yeah.
Because it's not really my frame. Like, this is what I want. And they allowed me to do it. And to be honest, like, I think that made a difference, because I think people recognize that. And unfortunately, obviously the company was in, I actually saw, so the frame did really well, which I was excited about. And I think Schwinn was surprised by. I mean, obviously when a company like Schwinn is in trouble, that goes way beyond me and my small contribution with a halfway decent selling frame.
BMX frame.
But I saw a comment on the internet not that long ago that said, like, somebody was alluding to the fact that the cease and desist we got from Van Halen for the graphics we had on that frame caused Schwinn to go bankrupt.
How good would that
be? Like, that's just it. Like, there's someone that believes that. There's someone that actually believes that.
For those who don't know, the graphics on the frame were similar to the Van Halen graphics, just said your name.
Right.
And after it was out for a certain amount of time, they got a cease and desist.
Right. So we got cease and desist. We couldn't use those graphics. I mean, things were already, like, I didn't know quite yet, but things were already kind of in trouble. But you know, with the companies that big, they're trying to figure out ways to save it or get investors up until the bitter end. So, you know, they kind of don't tell you things are in trouble until it's like truly the end.
Yeah, I guess when they needed investors, it wasn't going to be Eddie Van Halen. When Robbie Morales split from Fit and started Colt a few years back, did it ever get weird for you? I know he was kind of your guy at Fit, and then, or was it you're closer with Moeller at the time, or?
No, I mean that was a hard situation because, you know, I was close with Robbie.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't necessarily agree with the way everything went down. But you know, I think all that stuff's kind of in the past at this point, and you know, we've all like moved on. We have our own projects, and it's all water under the bridge at this point.
Yeah, so you're happy with sticking with Fit?
Oh yeah,
it's got to be one of the longest lasting sponsorships in BMX this day. Maybe behind Nyquist and Haro. That might be like the second longest.
Yeah, possibly. You know, yeah, no. I mean, obviously, like I think being part of Fit this long and having support for this long, it's something I'm really proud of, and it's a brand you can be proud of. I mean, you just know that like the products are made right. There's no questioning that. Like the quality is. He's been doing, like, Chris has been making bikes for a long time, making stems, stuff's made on site, and he has his hand in every part of that business. There's nothing that he's just, of course you have to delegate, but there's nothing that he's just totally handing off and being like, hey, you do this because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, he's involved in every process, whether it's the team, whether it's the parts, whether it's the finances, you know, he makes sure, and I think that's why they've been around for so long. I think that's why, you know, as you see certain companies come and go or like struggle with like the business aspect of things, I think that's the hardest part for a lot of brands, because a lot of times, like, we're not businessmen, we're BMXers. And I think you see brands struggle because of that.
What year did they start doing completes? Was it 20?
Fuck, it would have been like, I feel like, you know what?
Because they did them when they were kind of shit.
I think it was like 2006, I want to say. Maybe.
Okay.
Because it was like, I can actually remember where I was when I was like talking about it, and I was like in my garage at my house in Jersey. So it would have been 2006-ish, I think.
Because I remember at first they did like the Fit Complete.
No, but that was the year I started. Maybe, no. It would have been, okay, so around there, 2002, maybe 2005. Yeah, I don't know. Somewhere in there. Yeah, I'm going to say 2005, 2006, somewhere in there.
Okay. So maybe 4 or 5 years after you started riding for Fit, they were one of the first aftermarket parts brands that really hit doing complete bikes hard and kind of made high-end, good-looking complete bikes. What was your take on that and being a part of that? And how long into it did it take before you actually had your name on a complete bike?
I remember when they first told me that they were going to do completes, I was a little disappointed, because at the time, you know, you kind of associated completes with weird brands and like a lack of quality. And then I kind of quickly realized that my train of thought wasn't quite on par, because not every kid can afford, nor does every kid need, you know, a custom setup that's going to cost them $1,500 plus. And especially when I opened a shop, I really realized that, because you see kids come in, again, they can't afford it, and most of them don't need it. You know, you need it once you start to progress to a higher level of riding, but having a $400 complete or like a $600 complete, you know, and you'd even see a lot of guys like the really high end completes, like the $750, $800. You would see those go to like, well, two types of people, either the spoiled brat or like more notably, you would see those bikes be sold to guys who got out of BMX, they know how to ride, and they need a bike. They know they need a relatively quality bike, but they don't want to spend $1,500 to $2,000 on a custom complete. So they buy this $750 complete that's still chromoly, it's still quality, it's still going to hold up to their weekend warrior style of riding. And I think it's just a really good thing. You see the complete bikes offering something, whatever level you're at. Once you cross a certain threshold, you need like high end quality aftermarket parts. But up until then, there's different.
Essentially, variations. A younger or more particularly smaller rider should be able to learn the basics on that $400 bike.
Exactly.
And if you're all in, you can go spend the money on either aftermarket parts or on a higher end complete.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to, the average kid, their parents they're not willing to spend that much money for this kid to try a new hobby that he may or may not stick with. You know? And that makes sense, you know, like, and it's also the completes. It's also good having brands like Fit making completes, because they're making these bikes the best they can for the price they can, where, you know, maybe other bigger corporate companies just wouldn't be as vested in coming up with a quality product.
Essentially, Fit is BMX, and they're not going to cut corners to deliver a quality product with their name on it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. When did you first get your first signature complete?
I think probably 2007 or 8. I'm not sure. I mean, like, I think they've been doing it for a couple years. They just did the a really basic run, and then they started to do like signature completes with all the riders and things, like me and Mikey, Edwin, Inman, BF.
Did you actually have much input on that, or did they just try to stylize it as close to your bike as possible?
Yeah, no, we definitely had input. Obviously, you know, the most basic thing is the colors, but then even as far as like the geometry, and then like what like co-sponsors you had, like they would let me put like duo grips on like my higher end completes and things like that. So, yeah. I mean, it's a complete bike, so it's not going to be obviously the exact bike that you ride, but you know, based on our riding styles and the bikes that we rode, of course the components and the geometry would be relative.
I liked when Fit did that. If I recall, there was like an Edwin bike, and it was like 4 pegs and brakeless, and I think yours had a gyro and 2 pegs.
Right.
Maybe Mikey's was a straight cable and no pegs. I don't recall exactly.
No, you nailed it. I mean,
but it was
nailed it.
a cool idea.
No, you nailed it.
And it seems like they're still kind of following along those lines.
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's just.
Do you have a complete in the line right now?
I do. Yeah.
A full line of them, or just?
No, just I have one complete. Yeah, I have one bike.
Does it have similar graphics to your
Yeah,
frame?
so it has just recently we did the VHS frame, which is like has kind of like the Criminal Mischief inspired graphics, and some more modern but also somewhat more traditional geometry, and it just kind of touches on that nostalgia of the VHS kind of double meanings, like Van Homan series, but also it's like a VHS tape to kind of touch on like the Criminal Mischief, like
just
VHS
real quick.
tape.
Do you know what that stands for?
What's that?
VHS? Because I have no idea.
Let's see. What do we got? Visual. It's got to start with visual,
It's
right?
got to be visual.
Visual high.
Could be video.
Video. Can we Google this?
Google it. This is
It stands for Van Homan series.
Hold on. Google search.
You're finding it. But I can keep talking while you're looking that up.
You can.
So we have that came out.
Video home system.
Video home system, huh?
Pretty
that
close.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Van Homan signature video home system.
I guess before the video home system, you need to go to the movies.
There you go.
You couldn't do it at home.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's crazy. That makes it sound low. So we worked on that frame, but before that came out, the complete is like similarly inspired graphics and similar, like the bike is similarly inspired. That has the red and the black, like to kind of go back to that, the whole nostalgic thing. So yeah, it's a, you have the complete and you have the high end aftermarket frame.
Those turned out really cool. I like that frame and that throwback. We need more cool stuff like that, celebrating important pieces in BMX history.
Thank you.
Who else are you riding for right now?
I ride for Fit, Bell helmets, Duo. I rock their tires and grips, and then G Sport wheels. So
you've been with most of those brands for quite a while, it seems like.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like they've obviously supported me for a long time, and yeah, really grateful. Like it's kind of. It's a bit humbling, to kind of get that support for that long, and just they kind of trust you to do your thing. And like I said, I think I'm really making a point to just be present, in BMX. And I think that I like to think anyway that can kind of be inspiring for people. You get to a point where you don't feel like you need to keep up with this, that, or the other thing. You just kind of do what you want to do. And I think that like. That spirit, like I said, encouraging people to travel or just encouraging people to enjoy BMX. I think it does a lot more than trying to put out the latest, greatest, craziest, whatever.
There's a lot more to BMX than doing the craziest thing.
Yeah, it's. I think you try to like encompass a spirit, and like going back to what you were saying about Uncovered and people like loading up the van and putting their bikes on the bike rack and just they're experiencing BMX. They're getting on the road. And weird shit's happening, and they're sleeping on the side of the road, and maybe they go to some bar and they meet some weird dude or chick and some like whatever.
We've all got crazy stories,
man. So like it's just like you're building your life. You're we've all got these stories, and that's what it all inspires that.
I remember when I was like probably 13 or 14, Taj had an interview in Ride BMX. And he had a quote where he referenced, and this isn't a direct quote because I don't recall, that BMX was a great tool for experiencing life. When I was younger, I didn't quite get that, but I think that kind of coincides with what you're saying right now, and I think I do understand that now that you're older.
No, I think that's perfect. Like we, even just last night, I got to reconnect with a friend when I was 21, a friend from France, because we had the opportunity, me and Garrett Burns had the opportunity to come over to France when we were like 19, and then I got a call from our friend Lionel. He's like, hey, there's a couple French guys coming over. Do you mind if they stay with you? Long story short, they end up staying with us for 3 months. They buy this giant Cadillac that they're just like, oh, wait, was that Delta? Like a Delta. Were you there for that conversation?
No.
Either way, they buy this big boat of like a grandmother car. They can fit like 7 bikes in the trunk. And it's just like 6 Frenchmen just drive all over Philadelphia, like
that's
doing
badass.
Whatever. And they eventually, like I said, a couple of them stayed with us for 3 months. And they all got like an apartment in West Philly. They got like dishwashing jobs. They would just come to the trails, help dig, and they're just, just living the dream. But at the same time, like, it's awesome, that family. Like, when they asked, like, hey, do you mind if these dudes, we didn't even know them. We're just like, yeah, they're BMXers. Yeah, come stay with us.
BMXers with at least partial sign-off from one of your friends on one of the guys.
Yeah, it's just like, of course. We're down. And then, and now, like, I experience that, like, everywhere. Like, you can travel when you're in the BMX family and you just have all these connections. You can travel all over the world for almost nothing because everybody just wants to, it's like a network, you know. It's just like, oh, you stay with me, and then you just kind of like return the favors, and everybody, it's just like I said, it's just one big family. It's rad.
I've even had it where I'm like on a vacation or something that's unrelated to BMX with a chick or something, and like, well, I don't know this city. I don't know anybody here. A friend of a friend does, and then some random dude takes us to all the cool bars and stuff, and it's fantastic,
No, it's amazing. It was super lucky in that regard.
It's a lot smoother than most governments in the world. So maybe we need to elect a BMX rider for president. So this day and age, I know you're incredibly involved in
handsome.
You're incredibly handsome this day and age, more so than you were in the past. You see a lot of different types of riding. Who are some of the current dudes that you're stoked on?
Wow. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think at this point in my life, I generally find my inspiration from guys that kind of, share a similar history. I mean, there's definitely younger riders that I enjoy watching them ride. But I think I get inspired by just the whole picture, like the whole lifestyle. And, like I said, even somebody like Crandall, is like really inspiring to me because, he's a good friend of mine, and just, you have totally different paths in a way, but there's also similarities, and you can kind of feed off that and say like, you know, you can be who you want to be and like continue to be part of this world. There's no rules. Like, you don't have to say like, oh, I need to be having this by this time. I need to be starting a family by this time. You know, you kind of, you make your own rules, and somebody like that kind of shows me that. And it's a good example for me to say like, and not that I want to be exactly like him. I don't want to live in a bus in the backyard. I'm just kidding, Crandall. But, well, sort of. But, but seriously, like, it's just, but it's inspiring to just say, like, to follow a different path and say that's okay. Because it's so easy, especially when something becomes a struggle, it's really easy to get roped back into, I should do what I'm supposed to do, in quotes, you know, like, because it's like, that's what you went through when I was in high school. And I'm like going to go to college, and then I have these opportunities with BMX, and you feel all this pressure to still go to college, and because BMX isn't going to last, that's not going to get you whatever, and so you feel that, and then things go well, and you're like successful for a while, and like blah blah blah, and next thing you know, you get to the next transition in life, and like I feel like that's kind of where I'm at now, where you're like, you're a little bit confused, you're kind of floundering again, you're like, wow, like I'm just trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to make this work, but I want to stay here because I love BMX. And how do I make all that work? And so you're kind of juggling a lot of balls.
No homo? You still say no homo?
You can't say that anymore.
You can't?
No.
I didn't mean it.
So you're still just like juggling a lot of things and just trying to figure it all out, and you kind of get like trapped back into that. You're like, man, I just need to get a regular job. I just need to pull my life together, kind of so to speak. But then you have to like check yourself, and you know, you're like, all right, like maybe I'm not rich, maybe like there's things I'm trying to figure out. But you also have so many opportunities. You know, I'm like, the things that I get to do, people would pay a lot of money to be in France right now. People would pay a lot of money to go do all the traveling, all the trips, and again, like have that network of friends all over the world that kind of help them experience life, like you said, and so I wouldn't trade that for anything. So even if things are a little tight or you're a little confused, you kind of embrace that, and you're like, damn, like life's pretty good.
I just want to remind you that was the answer to who are some riders you like these days. No, it was good because everything you said was really good and made a lot of sense. And I think it was much better than being like, I really like Chad Curley. Move on. But I was having a conversation with Crandall in Australia recently when we were there for the Vans event. And I'm not as close to them as you are, but I feel a similar relationship that you described earlier when you're talking about how he kind of keeps you in check. Kind of like...
You know what's funny? He likes you.
I hope he does. I like him. He's a good guy.
We actually talked about you one day, and he's like, I think if he didn't know you, he wouldn't like you.
Oh,
so that's,
man.
Does that make sense?
No, totally. I wouldn't like me if I didn't know me. But but just like I remember I was just hanging out with Crandall, and it was after I just paid my taxes and stuff, and I was just pissed off at the world.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to him, and he's talking about living in a bus and riding the Lost Bowl and just all the cool shit he does, and just, man, like, I'm like, fuck, man, I'm sitting here bitching about paying my taxes, and it's like, you're looking at the big picture. Like, you get it. No,
totally. I think that's a good point, and that's, you know, again, I take a lot of inspiration from him, and I think it's something this is what we're doing what we always wanted to do. And if nothing comes without some kind of sacrifice, and sometimes you get caught up, and because of that sacrifice, you think you were supposed to have done things differently, or you're supposed to be doing something different now. But the bottom line is, when we were 12 years old, like, we kind of already knew that this is what we wanted. This is what we were going to do. And I that sounds crazy, but I feel like at 15, you're like, you know, people think you're going to get a car, you're going to like get out of BMX, but you have this passion for it, and you just kind of know that it's you don't know how you're going to do it, but it's like, what are you going to do? Like, I have, it's kind of a corny story, but I like telling this story. I had a social studies teacher in high school, and he said to me one day, he would ask every year, he'd ask the kids this, and he'd said like, hey, like, what are you going to do? Like, and I was like, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to ride my bike. And I'm literally like 15 or 16 years old, and he thinks like I was being a little bit of a smart ass, but I was also being serious. You know, I knew he wouldn't like my answer, but I was serious. And he's like, well, how are you going to do that? And I was like, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to do. And he's like, well, how are you going to pay for that? I was like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. Like, and he just like thinks I'm being a smart ass, you know, and because he was also the same type. He was like the baseball coach, and he would tell me like, I can make you the best bike rider in the world. I was like, I don't want to be the best bike rider in the world, Mr. Rigger. Like, I just want to ride. Like, and so I think, I was like, so then the point is, then fast forward like roughly 12 years later, this kid Vern that I know had the same teacher, the same class. And
he molested him.
Don't get weird.
Okay, I was just curious. I didn't know where you were going with this.
And so you can't make those jokes on the radio.
Your teacher can go to hell. As far as I'm concerned, a social studies teacher with a big ego.
I'm trying to give like a motivational speech here.
All right.
So anyway, so this kid Vern that I know, he used to ride and was friends with, he had the same teacher, same class, asked the same question. And he gives kind of some like obscure answer about some kind of design thing that he wants to do. And it's just a little like random. And Mr. Rigger went, you know what? I'm not going to tell you can't do that. Because I had a kid 12 years ago that sat in that exact same seat, and I asked him the same question. He told me he was going to ride his bike, and I thought he was an idiot. He's like, you know what that kid does for a living and owns a house right around the corner from? Riding a bike. He's like, so I'm not going to tell you can't do that. And for me, that was really awesome because it wasn't like some kind of thing where like, oh, I showed him, like I proved him wrong. It was more like, I changed his point of view.
Yeah.
Like, I think with that, I opened his mind. Like, he thought I was just being a smart ass, and in a way I was, but I also meant it, you know? Yeah. And it's like when you have passion for something, you just kind of follow that. And I think passion is also something that's easy to take for granted when you actually have it.
Yeah.
Like, when I was 15, I didn't care about anything else. I knew what I was about. I knew what my world was. And I think I knew more than anyone else did. Like, people they didn't believe it, you know, and it's kind of a good feeling to be here over 20 years later and you're like, see, I meant it.
Yeah.
I meant it. Like, this is, again, I'm not a visitor, you know, and like I said, I stole those words from Crandall, but it's like, it makes so much sense. Like, it's like, we're in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tried to make a molestation joke about it. It ruined the whole story. That was a good story, though. I thought it was going to be one of those fuck you teacher stories where it's like, you're a social studies teacher. You never did anything you wanted to do in your life. But it actually turns out you taught the guy a lesson, and now he's a better person.
I like to think so.
And if not, he can go to hell. What is your take and relationship with Little Devil / Orchid and the constant rebirths?
What is my relationship, you said?
Relationship, opinion. Is it ever going to come back, if you will, or is it always going to be a one-off?
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, that's not my project. That's Derek's project.
But you've always been synonymous with both brands.
So I think it's, I mean, I don't know that Orchid's had a rebirth at any point.
Has it not?
No, but Little Devil, I definitely think, like, I just think it's gotten to a point where Derek enjoys doing it again.
Yeah.
Like, I think things got really stressful for him. You know, as the brand grew and then as the brand started to struggle, I think there was a lot of pressure on him. And, you know, he felt like pressure to take care of people. And, you know, it just grown into this thing where people they made their living from it. Like, people were sponsored by it. And, you know, he had a giant ramp and a warehouse, and he just had all these bills, and it wasn't adding up anymore. And I think he had a really hard time with that. And I think now he's got his life back to a manageable place. And I think when he does something with Little Devil, it's something that he enjoys again. And I think people appreciate the nostalgia of the brand. So I think he can do stuff, and there is like an audience for it, and there's people that are really stoked, and it invokes good memories for them about riding, about BMX, and just about maybe their youth, you know, like, whoa, this is my shit. So when they see that Horns logo, it like means something special to them. So, you know, I can't speak for Derek or what his plans are, like what he plans to do, but you know, I think it's cool that he like gets inspired every so often, either makes a new logo or like redoes some old ones, and people are into it.
Do you wear them when they come out?
Not usually.
You should.
I have a few shirts I will rock sometimes, but
what does Derek do for a living? Do you know?
No.
Nice.
I really don't know. I've actually been very curious about this.
It's nice to hear he's in a good place and you don't know what he does.
Yeah,
That's the solution.
But I mean, he's, like I said, I'm stoked for him. I feel like he's really in a really good place mentally, and I think he even more so in a way. Like Derek practically lives at the trails, and I don't think it's for any motivation, then that's where he's happy. So I think it's cool. Good for him. Like, we don't keep in touch as much as we used to, but we're fine. Like, there's no nothing weird there or anything. We're just not as close as we were. We just kind of drifted. But I'm stoked for him, and he seems like he's doing good. So,
do you ever see yourself living somewhere long term other than the East Coast of the United States?
I guess never say never. Like, I'm open to anywhere that like an opportunity might take me. There may be some like potential things on the horizon that could mean a big move for me, but nothing's confirmed yet. So I won't want to talk about it.
But you're open to it.
Yeah, but I mean, if there was, and there very well may be, an opportunity that I'm not willing to talk about yet.
Yeah.
But if I would be, if it made sense, my life is very open to traveling right now, which I've done. Like, I was gone. I did my taxes a while ago, and I had to do all the math, and I was gone 5 months out of 12 last year total days. So I have been traveling a lot, and I'm open to continuing to do that. I'm open to living other places if
makes sense.
Something makes sense, and so we'll see what happens.
How happy were you? How happy were you with the results of the 2018 Super Bowl?
I was very happy. The Philadelphia Eagles. I watched the Super Bowl, half of it in a sports bar in Estonia, and I was super bummed because there was a guy with a Patriots jersey sitting right in front of me. And
Estonia.
And I really wish I could see his face when the Eagles won, because he was just, just one of those dudes,
Fuck
like, you just want to see that dude. Like, you're like, fuck your Patriots.
He probably spent like the equivalent of $500 getting that jersey, importing it,
And, but yeah, no, that was cool. And then I watched the other half. My girlfriend like FaceTimed the Super Bowl, like, while I'm watching it in the Estonia airport. Like, my flight couldn't have been at a worse time. I literally am like jumping up and down, cheering in the airport in Tallinn, Estonia. Like,
where their best athlete is a sumo wrestler named Baruto.
Is that true?
That's true. Don't worry about why I know that, but I do. We're going to end this with the same question we end all of these with, and you have to give me one answer to a difficult question. Of all time, who is your favorite BMX rider?
Chris Bennett.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. I mean, he was one of, and I think that goes back to, he was one of my early inspirations. Like, I feel like he's the reason I do no-footed can-cans the way I do, because I just would always try to do them like him.
They are similar.
Unfortunately, I could never get the Supermans figured out, but I think I got the cans. And so I looked up to him as a rider, and then I looked up to him as a friend. We became close friends, and then now with him, being successful with the real estate and his family, and still enjoying BMX, I think that's like inspirational to me to see. Like,
is he still riding?
Yeah, actually,
awesome.
He's actually been like really. I think he's had like different times, but like, I think right now he's really inspired. Like, I showed up at the wheel mill like a couple months ago, just randomly, and he was just rolling up. Like, I was like planning to hit him up, be like, "Yo, I'm in town," but he just like coincidentally pulled up at the skate park the same time I did, which is pretty awesome. So I think, just seeing someone like that still enjoying life, even with all the serious things he has going on, running a real estate business and having a family, 3 kids, but he's still, it's inspirational to see, like, he's still enjoying life. He's still fun and, kicking ass. And so I feel like on every level, it's one of those things where, like, you've just, like, every stage of life, you've been like, no, this dude's spot on, and I respect him.
Do you think he gets really angry while he's building houses like he did when he rides? And just starts breaking shit?
He probably does. He probably throws hammers through windows and stuff.
I would expect no less.
I like to think so.
All right. Any final thoughts?
Cheers.
Cheers. We were drinking. All right, that does it for this episode. Follow Van Homan on Instagram at Vandeverhoman, VANDEVERHOMAN. And remember, it doesn't count if you don't pull the rollback. Goodbye.